Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today we are discussing the latest generation of Rolex Oyster Perpetual 34mm. This is the 124-200 in 904L stainless steel. It's 34mm in diameter, 10.8mm thick. It is 40mm from lug tip to lug tip, and if you include the end links of the bracelet, it is 42.9mm across the wrist with an 18mm spacing between the lugs. It is considerably more compact than the previous Oyster Perpetual 34. That was 11.7mm, again to 10.8 here, and that featured a lug-to-lug dimension on the wrist of 43.6. So this is altogether a thinner, finer, and more delicate looking watch, albeit in the same nominal case size. We'll throw it on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, and you can see that although it looks larger, it does look more like a 36 than a 34. That's a long-time quality of just about all oyster-cased watches, especially with their conforming end links and integrated bracelets. They have more the appearance of a tonneau than a round watch on the wrist. But you can see the further away you get, the smaller the watch looks relative to the rest of my wrist. So I would say this is a watch for people who have a wrist my size, 16 centimeters, or smaller. I'm not going to say there's a lower limit, though, because even a child could wear this watch well, and it easily slides underneath the cuff because of its thin profile and its domed bezel. We'll take a quick look at the bracelet. It's the Oyster bracelet, a 3-link design that tapers with satin finish tops, polished edges. You can see removable links are fixed by screws. You have a couple of removable links to allow for sizing. We have a single fold deployant clasp. As ever, we have the stamped Rolex crown on the outside of the Oyster Perpetual clasp. We have a beak and a hook, so there's a lift lock system. It actually locks and latches as you close it. You have to lift it to unlock it, so it's not a friction fit system. It's actually a trigger-based system. A big change for the latest Oyster Perpetuals is that we now have the Easy Link quick change system, so you can change in or out, adjusting 5mm in or out, the equivalent of one removable link. You could do that without any kind of a tool. It snaps in, it snaps out. Now, if you look more carefully inside, you can see there are 3 divots drilled into the clasp. Those little divots allow you to use your strap tool to change the anchoring point of the bracelet inside the clasp. So there are a couple of different ways to adjust this bracelet fit. We have a case that's handsome, the Oyster case, since 1926, and the Oyster Perpetual, the combination of the Oyster water-resistant case and the Perpetual winding system, since 1933. Those watches were called bubble backs because their case backs were expanded to fit the rotor winding system. Well, this watch is thinner than any Oyster Perpetual in a long time, but it maintains that domed bezel profile of the first bubble backs, so it has a vintage look to it. We have a screw-down crown. It's a twin-lock crown, 100 meters of water resistance, and Rolex makes its own steel, 904L steel. It makes its own cases, bracelets, and clasps. 904L steel is very much like 316 with one exception. It is more resistant to corrosion, so it is less likely to corrode in the presence of sea salt or sweat, and you technically don't need to rinse it after contact with salt, unlike 316 steel, which you generally should rinse. We'll do a quick lume shot here. As you can see, Rolex Chromolite Blue Lume, plenty of it, so you can see this watch well at night with larger indices at 3, 6, and 9. You can see that the dial is very subtly two-tone. It's a silver sunburst dial with little printed Roman numerals outboard of the hours, and this is the post-2018 Rolex dial that they've been rolling out on all new models that have launched since then. It has the little crown between Swiss and made. The hands, the crown, and the indices, all 18-karat yellow gold. They add a little bit of warmth and color, and they're also resistant to tarnishing or oxidizing over time. Underneath the Oyster case back, which is screwed in, we have Rolex manufactured caliber 2232, a movement we don't see too often. It's automatic winding with a 55-hour power reserve. It uses a winding rotor bearing to make it more shock tolerant. The 55-hour power reserve is unique to this movement family. You won't find it on any other Rolex group of calibers. It has stop seconds or hacking. It pivots on 31 jewels. It is certified as a chronometer. Rolex certifies the movement, then cases it up and tests it in 6 positions, one more than the chronometer 5. Rolex ensures that these watches run at most +2, -2 per 24 hours. Most run quite a bit better. So that's the basis for that term, superlative chronometer. The full balance bridge and the free sprung balance make the watch more shock tolerant. That's standard across Rolex's range. What's unusual about this movement is that it's one of the few that Rolex equips with a true silicon amagnetic hairspring. They call it Siloxy. It's a technology that they jointly developed alongside Patek Philippe and Swatch Group. They just don't deploy it widely. It's believed that Rolex deploys it on smaller watches and ladies' watches as part of a long-term trial run of the technology. So if you own this watch, you're going to have something that no Daytona, GMT, or Submariner does have, and it's that silicon technology. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.